What's up, everybody? Welcome back to History on Repeat. Quick question. What if I told you one of the most dangerous American soldiers in World War II wasn't even supposed to be there? For real, poor eyesight and classified 4F. The Army literally said, nah, you're good. Sit this one out. And then this guy goes on to basically hold off in German assault all by himself. Yeah, this is Vito Bertoldo, one of the toughest soldiers to ever receive the Medal of Honor, and we're about to get into it. But first, before we get into today's episode, I want to talk to you about my new partner, Deemed Fit. If there's one thing history makes painfully clear, it's that strength isn't just physical. A lot of the people we talk about on this channel, soldiers, surgeons, elite military groups, and everyday heroes, carried invisible weight long before anyone ever talked about mental health. They pushed through stress, trauma, and burnout because they had to, often without support. And as a veteran who struggles with my own mental health and have had friends who have unfortunately lost their fight to theirs, Deemed Fit really stood out to me. Yes, they focus on fitness, but more importantly, they focus on mental resilience, accountability, and building habits that actually help people deal with stress instead of just masking it. Their approach isn't about chasing perfection. It's about showing up, staying consistent, and taking care of your head as much as your body. And Deemed Fit doesn't just talk the talk. They actively give a portion of every sale to EMTs, first responders, and those on the front lines, people who deal with chaos, pressure, and trauma as a part of their daily routine. The kind of people who are always there when things go sideways, but they don't always get the support they deserve. By partnering with Deemed Fit, you're not just supporting the channel, you're also supporting a company that believes fitness can be a tool for mental health, recovery, and purpose, not just aesthetics. So if you're looking for a program that cares about your mindset and not just your max lift, or if you want to support a brand that gives back to those who give everything, check out Deemed Fit. And by using my promo code HistoryOnRepeat, you get 15% off your first order. The link's in the description below. All right, let's get back to the reason why you're all here.
It's History on Repeat.
Hell yeah.
Before we get into France, machine guns, and all that military badassery I know you all love, let's rewind, because Bertoldo didn't come out of nowhere. Vito Rocco Bertoldo was born December 1st, 1916 in Decatur, Illinois. His parents were Italian immigrants, which matters because early 20th century Midwest immigrant life wasn't exactly easy. This was a hard-working class household, no privilege, no safety net, no big dreams of military glory. You worked, you helped the family, and you didn't complain about it. Bertoldo went to St. Teresa High School, and by all accounts, he wasn't a standout athlete or an academic star. No stories about him being some natural warrior or fearless kid. If anything, he was described as quiet, but dependable and stubborn. The kind of guy who just keeps showing up. And yeah, the eyesight thing, that wasn't a small detail. His vision was bad enough that when the U.S. Army first evaluated him, they slapped an 4F classification, meaning physically unfit for service.
Ma'am, I know how this looks.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant, I really am, but Army and Navy requires 20/20 vision.
For a lot of people, especially during World War II, that was embarrassing. It meant you stayed home while everyone else went off to fight. But Bertoldo didn't see it as luck. He saw it as unfinished business. So Vito, being Vito, decided to play it safe for now and wait for the right opportunity to present itself. Until then, Bertoldo worked regular civilian jobs, factory work, manual labor, nothing glamorous. He understood long hours, physical exhaustion, and taking orders. But Vito didn't have to wait too long for that aforementioned opportunity. The U.S. entered World War II officially, and manpower needs skyrocketed. Bertoldo didn't wait and tried enlisting again. This time, the Army took him, but not exactly with open arms. They put him where they thought he belonged, in the kitchen. He became a military cook. And I'm not gonna lie, this feels like a wasted opportunity to make a joke about women belonging in the kitchen, but my wife is scary and I like my balls where they are, so sorry, maybe next time.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Anyways, here's the key thing. There's zero evidence he complained about it. He did the job, learned Army life, watched how things work, paid attention, but at some point, he decided that wasn't enough. Instead of riding out the war behind the lines, Bertoldo volunteered for infantry training, which is not something you do accidentally. This meant harder physical requirements, harsher discipline, and a much higher chance of getting killed, especially for someone who already knew the army thought he wasn't fit. That decision alone tells you a lot. He wasn't chasing medals. He wasn't trying to prove anything to the public. He just didn't want to be the guy who stayed back. So when he finally shipped overseas with the 42nd Infantry Division, he wasn't some fresh-faced recruit. He was a guy who had already been told no, already been sidelined, and already decided he wasn't going to accept that. Which makes what happens next, when everything collapses in France, make a lot more sense. Because by the time Bertoldo is standing alone with the machine gun in Hatton, this isn't some sudden burst of heroism. It's the result of a guy who spent his whole life quietly choosing the harder option. Sorry for the interruption. If you haven't realized by the wardrobe change, something happened. I originally recorded this last night, and right about this time into the episode, my SD card ran out of space and quit recording. So when I went to edit this today, you can probably guess I wasn't very happy. Now, with that said, let's get back into it, because shit's about to get real. By January 1945, the Battle of the Bulge had turned eastern France into a frozen nightmare, which, if you haven't heard of the Battle of the Bulge, long story short, it was basically Hitler's last attempt to end World War II with a German victory. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. But Vito didn't know that yet, and being there at that moment in time was hell. Snow-covered forests, collapsing front lines, German units slipping through gaps where American defenses were never meant to exist. And that's how Vito Bertoldo, a man assigned to guard warehouses and paperwork, suddenly found himself standing watch over a critical U.S. command post near Hatton, France. This wasn't just some tent with a radio. This was the nerve center. Maps, communications, officers coordinating the defense. If it went down, everything around it unraveled. Most of the men assigned to defend it weren't combat troops. They were clerks, drivers, cooks. People with rifles, not battlefield experience. But in true U.S. Army spirit, you're a soldier first before anything else. And the Germans were about to find that out quick. The attack started with artillery and mortar fire. Explosions ripped through the snow and earth, shaking buildings and shredding defensive positions. German infantry followed, advancing through the chaos, testing the American perimeter. As defenders fell back or were wounded, Bertoldo moved forward. He took position behind a .50 caliber machine gun, fully exposed, no bunker and no real cover. Just him, the weapon, and incoming fire. And he opened up. The sound of that .50 cal cut through everything. Deep, violent, relentless. German troops were forced to hit the ground. The advance stalled by a man who refused to stop firing. When enemy fire damaged the gun and made it unusable, Bertoldo didn't retreat. He sprinted through the snow, bullets snapping around him, and reached another machine gun position. Then another. Then another.
And another one.
Throughout the day, he bounced between posts repairing damaged guns, dragging ammunition into place, and firing until the barrels overheated, which was my first thought personally when reading this, because you're supposed to fire in short bursts, both to improve accuracy and also to avoid overheating. But I guess if you got a bunch of methed out Nazis running at you, you can improvise a little bit. Damn, if they had Mark 19s back then, what a blast that would have been. I'm standing behind one of those. Anyways, back to Vito. His actions already make him an absolute badass, but war is war, unfortunately. He was wounded several times during these attacks, hit by shrapnel and small arms fire, but he refused medical treatment. The Germans pulled back as night fell, but Bertoldo stayed at his post. Finally, some relief, right? Maybe a little sleep? Nope, there was no rest. The temperature dropped well below freezing. Vito had no winter gear meant for prolonged combat exposure, no heated shelter, and no relief rotation. He stayed manning his .50 cal all night long, which I know from experience is absolute torture. And we even had Rippets and Tabasco sauce for eye drops if we needed them. Anyways, Vito didn't have help or time. At dawn, the Germans attacked again. This time they came closer. Bertoldo manned another machine gun, firing until enemy rounds tore through the position and forced him to abandon it. When that happened, he grabbed his rifle and grenades, moving through the command post perimeter, engaging German soldiers at close range. At points, the fighting devolved into short, violent bursts, enemy figures appearing through the smoke and snow, with Bertoldo responding with rifle fire and grenades thrown by hand. Despite his wounds worsening and the frostbite setting in, he continued to reposition himself wherever the defense was weakest. German troops attempted to probe the command post from multiple angles, and every time they did, they ran into Vito. By the end of the second day, the attack stopped. The command post was still standing. The Germans withdrew, and only then did Bertoldo finally accept evacuation. He was suffering from multiple wounds, extreme exhaustion, and frostbite severe enough to cause long-term damage. But the command post never fell, because one man, deemed unfit for frontline service, decided that his post mattered more than his own survival. When the official reports were written, a clear picture started to form. Witnesses described how Bertoldo had moved from one machine gun position to another as each one was knocked out by enemy fire. They talked about how he repaired damaged weapons while bullets snapped overhead, how he dragged ammunition through the snow, and how he kept firing until the guns themselves overheated. They described a man who stayed at his post for 2 straight days, barely sleeping and refusing evacuation even after being wounded and exposed to brutal sub-zero temperatures. Again and again, German attacks stalled or collapsed completely because Vito was still there, still firing and still refusing to give ground. The language of the Medal of Honor citation was formal, almost restrained, but the reality behind it was anything else. It told the story of a soldier who had once been deemed unfit for frontline combat, yet stood alone during one of the most desperate moments of the Battle of the Bulge and prevented the capture of a vital American command post through sheer determination. That kind of heroism didn't go unnoticed. On April 5, 1945, Vito Rocco Bertoldo stood at the White House as President Franklin D. Roosevelt placed the Medal of Honor around his neck, the highest award for valor the United States can give. For a man who had spent much of the war guarding warehouses and supply depots, it was a moment that almost didn't feel real. True to form, Bertoldo didn't celebrate it as a personal victory. To him, he had simply done his job. After the ceremony, Vito returned to duty briefly, but his war was effectively over. The injuries he sustained, especially the frostbite, followed him home. Like many Medal of Honor recipients, he didn't build a public identity around what he had done. No speaking tours, no book deals, no attempt to turn the moment into fame. He returned to Illinois, settled back to civilian life, and took a job with General Electric. To coworkers, he was quiet, polite, and hardworking. Many didn't even know they were working alongside a Medal of Honor recipient, and he didn't correct them. And unfortunately, like most of the men who fought in World War II, the war never truly left Bertoldo. The injuries from Hatton, combined with the physical toll and the prolonged exposure and stress, slowly wore him down. On December 13, 1966, Vito Bertoldo passed away at just 49 years old. While his death wasn't officially listed as combat-related, historians widely agree that the damage done during those 2 frozen days in France played a role in shortening his life. He was buried with full military honors in Decatur, Illinois. Today, Vito Bertoldo's name appears on military memorials, veterans organizations, and Medal of Honor rolls, but his legacy isn't carved into stone. It's written into the idea that heroism doesn't always look like confidence and swagger. Sometimes it looks like a soldier refusing to step away, performing bravely under fire, and staying when logic says to run. Bertoldo wasn't elite. He wasn't selected. He wasn't even expected to survive. But when the moment came, he became exactly what history needed. A soldier remembering that no matter what your job says on paper, a soldier is a soldier first. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more forgotten legends, and drop a comment on who you want me to cover next, or as always, if I might have missed anything. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's history on repeat.
Hell yeah.
Before we get into France, machine guns, and all that military badassery, Before we get into France, machine guns, and all that military Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay. Please tell me you're still recording. Thank God.